This is our 6th homework session devoted to lesson number 1 of the Healthy Spinal Rotations program. And we are going to integrate and oppose movement of both feet today. Let's start together. Place your right hand on the forehead, both knees are bent, and very gently do the original movement. Feel if there is any cumulative effect of what we've been doing in the quality of movement, in the feeling of resistance that your hand experiences while pushing the head. Feel maybe it's a little lighter. Now, add movement of edges of both feet to the left, meaning lift the inside edge of the left foot and simultaneously outside edge of the right foot while you turn your head to the left. Then come back. Remember to move only within the range of comfort, and not even that, to move up until the first moment where you feel there's a sensation of need to increase effort. And when you detect that, back off. We want to examine whether that effort is really necessary or whether it's some parasitic tension in our body. You can't go wrong with doing too little here. And then come back. Lift the two edges of your feet, turning them to the left, knees flow to the left, and the head turns to the left. Wonderful. Come back. Place both of your hands down. This time, do the oppositional movement of your feet, meaning lifting the inside edge of the right foot and the outside edge of the left foot. And then come back. Do this just a few times, simply. Observe the movement of the pelvis, rib cage, perhaps even your head, wanting to join, turning. Don't insist. If it doesn't want to join, recognize this. Become aware, my head is not turning. Great. Place your right hand on your forehead, and now we'll do oppositional movements. Both feet turn to the right while the head is turning to the left. And then come back. Exhale, lifting the two edges of your feet. Come back. Perhaps you're sensing a little bit better coordination of lifting the edges of your feet. A little more control than when we did that movement for the very first time. I sense that my right foot is lifting a little bit better than in the session previously. Something about the feeling of the toes is a little clearer on the right side. Notice whether you notice any place where you feel a little simpler in movement. Even though the head and your feet move in oppositions. Always exhale, releasing as you go. And then come back, inhaling. One more time. Turn to the left, your head, feet to the right, knees to the right. Feel the middle section of your back where the two movements have to meet. And then put the arm down, rest for a moment. Take a brief moment to sense the width of your shoulders, openness of your chest, contact of your middle back, shoulders, shoulder blades, lower back, pelvis. And let's do the original movement. I'm curious if you will feel an improvement. Come back. Exhale. Inhale, come back. This time, lift both edges to the left, meaning outside edge of the right and inside edge of the left. And then come back. And link this coordination. So in this section, you learn how to move your head with the movement of the pelvis driven by your feet, and when the movement is opposing, freeing up, creating a little bit more possibilities. Wonderful. Stop before we do it on the other side. Stretch out your legs. Again, 1 minute for your hippocampus to create and integrate new memories. During this period of minute, we don't do anything. We don't think deliberately about anything. We just try to limit the input of new information. And let's work together on the other side. Bend both of your knees. Stand your feet comfortable distance apart. Place your left palm flat on your forehead. And begin to roll your head to the right. Come back. Do you remember how it was when we did this movement the very first time during our first session, day 1? Of the healthy spinal rotation course? Maybe you feel a little bit nicer, like a well-oiled machine. Don't worry if the movement is still a little difficult, that's okay. You are practicing. This is your movement practice. This isn't an exercise. It's a movement practice. The difference between the exercise is that often with exercises, we do them in a mindless way. We have the television set on, or we focus on the number of repetitions, we count. Maybe we have music pumping in our ears. And we do movements to our physical bodies that are still very beneficial. But in terms of learning, what we want is to add the component of slowing down and listening to your experience, your current experience. Put your arm down, rest a moment. Place your left hand back on your forehead. Let's do it together with feet to the right. Turn your head to the right. Lift the outside border of the left foot, inside border of the right foot. Let the knees tilt to the right and come back. Exhale. Inhale, come back. observe, notice the full experience of yourself in action. What draws your attention? What kind of internal sense draws your attention? Listening to how your weight is pouring onto the right side and returning. If the movement is smooth and gradual, if it takes very little effort to turn and to come back. And now, let's do the oppositional movement. Lift the outside edge of the right foot, inside edge of the left foot, and turn your head to the right. Feel, experience this movement. See if you can experience each repetition anew. So in fact, repetitions are not repetitions. It's not the same, very same experience when you move now comparing to your last movement. Every movement is a new experience, and therefore a rich environment for your nervous system to learn. When we do things in a monotonous way, in a mindless way, each repetition is kind of the same. Exhale, lift the edges of your feet to the left, turn the head to the right. Remember from the last session that your weight could be shifting, driven by your pelvis, or it could be shifting, driven by your head, especially the weight of your upper back and shoulders. Feel, do you remember these two choices? Your head turning to the right could make your right shoulder blade flatter, although your pelvis could take your shoulder blades to the left, and therefore you will experience the movement of the left shoulder blade pressing to the floor. You have choices. We have choices. And we have choices that we even didn't know we had. Couple more times, exploring one choice, exploring another choice. Again, even with an unfamiliar choice, make the movement simpler, lighter, even if it's smaller. Wonderful. And then come back, put your arms back down. Observe your breathing, your contact with the floor. Place your left palm on your forehead and do the original movement. And see how the head is rolling. Maybe you feel an improvement. I bet you feel some improvement. Excellent. Straighten both of your legs down. Stop for a moment again. Lie quietly, observing the contact that you're making with the floor, your back, your shoulders, your pelvis, your legs and your arms. That completes our homework number 6. Although, I would like to tell you that the practice of movement of our feet and interaction, coordination of our feet with the turning of the head is not the only one. Let's take a look in standing, the options that we have for turning and engaging our feet. So we stand up And pay attention to contact that your feet make with the floor, your carriage of the head, how upright your head feels now, how nicely supported by the long axis of your spine it is. And turn your head once to the right and once to the left. And pay attention to the action of your feet. Can you feel the edges of your feet very gently changing? But can you recognize this movement from our practice from the past 6 days? Can you see the arch of one foot wanting to lift while on the other side it flattens a little bit? And then on the other side. Now, we can have this kind of more passive shift on our feet. That's one way of integrating our feet with the movement of the head. On the other hand, I would love you to experience what it means for your feet to be a little bit more active. Think now of pushing from the outside edge of your left foot and from the ball of the foot, pushing in the outward direction with a little bit of rotational movement. The force that your foot applies to the floor is out and a little bit turning in this kind of vector of rotational force into the ground. Since the foot is planted, the foot is not moving anywhere. If it were slippery surface, you would just do this, yeah? If I'm making this kind of vector of force outward, it would slip, I would slip my foot out. But if the foot is planted, that force can make me turn to the right. Can you feel that? Apply a little force. It's not anymore just passive going on edges. It's the driving force of the foot into the ground that turns your whole body from the ground up. On the right side, it would feel like this. Push is outward to the right, and the body just moves away from the pressure, away from the pressure. This kind of activities we use in sports. If you play tennis, pickleball, if you play any sport, baseball, hockey even, push off the skate in order to generate movements, intentional movements. So that can happen also in our turning. It can be the pressure into the ground that makes the hitting, batting, tennis, you name it. So this is the second, more active way of utilizing your feet. One more thing that I would love to mention today is axis of rotation of the head and how this axis line up with your both legs. There are generally three possibilities. One, we can shift the axis over the side that we're turning, over the left leg right now as I'm turning to the left, and over the right leg as I'm turning to the right. I could stay in the middle while turning, or we can move away from the direction we're turning, just like this. Shifting weight to the left as you turn right. Shifting weight to the right as we turn left. There is not necessarily right or wrong answer, depending on activities. If you're a bullfighter, you don't want to turn and move yourself toward the bull running, right? So you will want to turn away, and therefore you will shift away from the direction that you're turning. However, in many situations, you will actually want to learn how to rotate around the long axis of the body that will allow you to pivot, that will allow you to start walking around, turning around. Also in terms of our knees and many other joints, hips, if I do something like this, I might be putting strain on the inside portion of the knee. Take a look at this. If I were to habitually turn always this way, creates a misalignment in the knee. So here we are. We have options, options, and options, and we want to practice them. I hope to see you for day 2 of healthy spinal rotations. The lesson we'll explore in day 2 of our healthy spinal rotation will wonderfully illuminate this concept of shifting axis of rotation over the joints lined up with the direction of turning. I'll see you there. Happy practice, upwards and onwards.